we look at ways in which to basically correct a situation by addressing the underlying cause, while in conventional medicine, they really focus on suppressing the symptoms. And sometimes the symptoms are very important whistles that alert us that something is wrong. We know that as people age, many people lose the ability to manufacture sufficient levels of cartilage. What doesn't make sense is to take a drug that actually inhibits the body's ability to make cartilage, because what you're doing is simply suppressing pain and inflammation, but you're actually accelerating the disease process. When identical twins are born, they express about 99% of their genes identically. By the time they're 50, it's less than 3%. Wow. Same DNA. What's changed? Their diets may be similar, but their thoughts are different. Their emotions are different. Their hormonal levels may be different. Their activity, it's all these factors influence their genetic expression.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CNM Specialist Podcast. My name is Mike Murphy, and in this episode, I met with Dr. Michael T. Murray, one of the world's leading authorities on natural medicine. He's written over 30 books with a cumulative sales of over 6 million copies to date. He's authored literally thousands of articles and lectured to hundreds of thousands of people worldwide. He's a patron of the College of Naturopathic Medicine, and he has dedicated his life to educating physicians, his patients, and the general public on the tremendous healing power of nature. I don't think I've ever met anyone who's more passionate about living a healthy life. And it shows in every way. No one walks the talk more than Dr. Murray. And in this podcast, we talk about some of his earliest inspirations and the people who first got him interested in pursuing a career in natural medicine. We get into some of the fundamental differences between naturopathic medicine and allopathic or conventional medicine. He shares all kinds of clinical pearls and tips for health from his experience as a naturopathic doctor. And he gets into some of his most popular books, including his latest book, The Longevity Matrix, and the one before that, The Magic of Food, as well as one of his classics, What the Drug Companies Don't Tell You and What Your Doctor Doesn't Know. I so enjoyed speaking with Dr. Murray. So without further ado, here it is. A very warm welcome to you, Dr. Michael Murray. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you, Michael. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah. Now, are you dialing in from Scottsdale?
Yes, Scottsdale, Arizona.
Okay, excellent. Whenever I think of Arizona, I think of sunshine, blue skies, and heat. Is that kind of an accurate presumption?
Yes, and today is a good example of it.
All right. Well, we're coming at you here from Sussex, which is a county just kind of southeast of London. And if there's one thing I'll say about the UK, it's we don't take the sun for granted. I woke up this morning and it looked like a nice day, but the heavens literally opened just a moment ago. But I'm from San Diego, and I was born and raised there. So I kind of grew up thinking the sun was just always out. I did take it for granted, which doesn't seem the right thing to do.
Michael, the first time I was in London, I think it was in the late 90s, and I was there in November, and I was expecting dreary, dark, gray days, and I was there for a week, and it was blue skies, vibrant sunshine every day I was there. It was cold, but it was beautiful, and it was one of the great experiences to go on the London Eye and just feel the history of this really iconic city in the world. It was just fantastic. I had a great time, plenty of time to explore and walk around, and it was just beautiful.
Oh, that's great. It's really, when the sun comes out in the British Isles, it's really something to see, and glad you got to enjoy that.
Yeah, the last time we were talking before we started filming, last time I was in the UK, I think it was 2019. I was at the college. I did an event there, and it was just a great experience for me, really warmed my heart. What a great facility. And just the level of education and enthusiasm and passion for natural medicine. It was palpable. But I also went down to Bristol, and that was a great experience. And again, it was just a beautiful sunny day, and
Wow.
it was just a great that was a beautiful experience as well. So yeah, I've been blessed when I seem to bring the sunshine with me when I come to the UK.
Gosh, excellent. Well, we look forward to the next time you're coming out and bring in
Yeah.
some of that sun. Now, doctor, you've been a naturopathic doctor for how many years now?
I graduated in 1985.
Wow.
I'll be 65 in just a couple of weeks. So it's been a great life, a great career. And I know there's some viewers out there that are probably thinking about getting into naturopathic medicine. And for me, it's been the love of my life in many ways. I have human love and connection, but this connection to nature, that this vehicle of being a naturopathic physician brought to me is just a blessing. And it's very nurturing to feel that connection.
Wow. You've influenced so many people over the, gosh, I guess almost 40 years now, if it was
Yeah,
85,
yeah.
myself included. I'm just curious, who were some of your earliest influencers that kind of inspired you to enter the field of natural medicine?
My life has been full of serendipity and guidance. I think serendipity is kind of the bumper rails to keep us on our path. And I was really fortunate when I was 19 years old to meet uh, who many people who had the chance to meet Dr. Ralph Weiss would agree he was maybe the greatest healer in our profession. So I get choked up thinking about him,
Wow.
but what an experience to meet this man and to work a little bit with him, and just the epitome of a modern naturopathic physician. And when he was probably in his 50s when I was 19, and just to see his dedication to learning and growing even then, and just a real pioneer of healing. And yeah, so that he
Wow.
was probably the first of many people that inspired me and played a role in kind of creating my philosophy. And obviously Joe Pizzorno, we developed a friendship at the very beginning. I remember the first time I met him. I was like 20 years old, and uh, called him Dr. Pizzorno, and he said, "Please call me Joe." And he's been Joe ever since to me, and not only a great mentor, but one of the best friends I've ever had. And we've done a lot of work together, and there's a lot of history there
Mm.
of how things kind of flourished for me. Um, as I said, I've had a lot of serendipity, but I've also had a lot of guidance, and I've asked the right questions. And um, it's it's really interesting. Sometimes things happen to us, and we think, "Oh my gosh, this could be one of the worst things that ever happened." And then, if you ask the right questions, it can reframe it, and the next thing you know, you're on a path that is greater than anything you could imagine, and everything is working in that direction to help you succeed. My association with Dr. Pizzorno and many others exemplifies that.
Gosh, just hearing you talk about, serendipity and I'm just reminded of things that happened to you that at the time seem, they just weren't what you wanted. It could be really heartbreaking, but then you look back and connect the dots and realize it needed to be that way for you to be here. I remember applying for a job in the mid 90s. I was living in Australia and I wanted it so bad. And it was almost promised to me. And I actually went out for dinner, celebrated, and got home and there was a message on the machine saying, they'd made another decision. And I was just devastated. But I look back now and know that if I had got that job, my life would have been a very different path. And, we don't always have the answers for ourselves.
Yeah, and my life is really interesting in that regard. The older that we get, we can look back and we can see how the experiences are woven together in the fabric of our lives. And mine is a really really blessed path. And there's so many people that really influenced me. One of the greatest influences in my life was my fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Strand. And when I was in third grade, my life goal was to be a comedian.
Oh, wow.
And I was kind of the class clown, and I have a sister that's a year older who was an exceptional student, and she had Mrs. Strand, and so I'm kind of joking around the first day of class, and she just would not have it, and she kind of put me in my place and said she expected more from me. And at the front of our class, she had a poster with all the kids' names, and she told us that if we wrote a book report, that she would give us a star. It'd either be a gold, blue, or red star. And I wrote so many book reports that she had to get another poster just for me. And what she taught me was to read a book and take in the information and then express what I read and how it impacted me in my own words. And I got really good at book reports. And she gave me one of the greatest gifts of my life. I wrote a book report on marine life, a book that I read on marine life. And I mentioned in there that in fourth grade, that some people considered oysters an aphrodisiac. Well, I didn't get a star on that book report. I got a big F that was circled with a squiggly line that went down to aphrodisiac, which she circled and then underlined 3 times. And she had another squiggly line and wrote never, underlined it 3 times. Use a word that you don't know the meaning of. And I didn't know what aphrodisiac meant, but I knew what embarrassment and shame felt like. And it was painful because here's a teacher that I loved and wanted her approval. And she basically, it was the greatest, one of the greatest gifts that was ever given to me, because all the books, or most of the books behind me, probably 90% of them are books that I've written. So I've written a lot of words, and every word that I've written, I understand the meaning of, and it's a language, and it's medicine is a language, and we have to learn how to be able to speak what we know in ways that our patients can understand. So it's a challenge. We've got to be translators, and so. In order to translate, you have to really understand the meaning of the words that you're speaking and writing. So that was a great gift from Mrs. Strand. So I can, I recognize that basically when I finished writing the first edition of the textbook of natural medicine, because for me it was quite an accomplishment to understand the meaning of every word that was in that book. And our terminology keeps increasing, and so learning keeps increasing. But what that understanding of language has given me, it's given me the ability to interact with physicians and experts around the world in a variety of different topics, and I'm able to speak their language to some degree, and it's been fun. It's been fun.
Wow, it sounds it. In terms of your career as a naturopathic doctor, and by the way, do you say naturopath or naturopath, or is it tomato,
No, I say
tomato?
either or either.
Okay. Okay.
It really can be spoken either way because, you can say naturopath to signify that it's linked to nature, or you can say naturopath to link it to natural. So either way works, and
Okay.
and I use them probably interchangeably. I don't really pay attention.
Okay, great. Tomato, tomato. And I still say tomato after 27 years living over here. But I'm just curious if you could articulate kind of some of the key differences between naturopathic medicine and conventional or allopathic medicine, and some of the similarities. If it,
Okay. Yeah, well, I think the biggest difference are the tools that we use in an overall paradigm. We focus on not the body being a machine, but being an intelligent, living organism, and it's really it's really interesting what I've discovered in my work over all these years, having kind of my fingers on the pulse of medical research. I'm going to take a step back and provide a little more history. One of the things that was really beneficial to me was teaming up with Alan Gaby and Jonathan Wright while I was still a student, and working with them on a database gathering project. This was before the internet, so I would go to the library, have a little file box of over 800 journals that we were following, and I would look through these journals from the 1900s on, and I would look for articles that were interesting and provided insights on nutrition and natural approaches to health. And what is apparent looking at the evolution of science is that the current medical model is not based on what the model is going to be in the future. And the model of the future has a lot in common with what we have as our fundamental principles in naturopathic medicine, which is there's this healing power within us, and our ability of physicians is to call on that healing power to move people to a higher level of wellness and health. The major difference between conventional medicine is the focus on treating disease instead of the promotion of health. And they may seem to the uninformed to be the same, but they're really not. So we look at ways in which to basically correct a situation by addressing the underlying cause, while in conventional medicine, they really focus on suppressing the symptoms. And sometimes the symptoms are very important whistles that alert us that something is wrong. There's also a disconnect in understanding that many physical conditions are related to psychological stress or psychosomatic issues, emotional issues, social issues. A person is much more complex than just their biology, their physiology. We are spiritual, emotional, and we have this tremendous brain that is also influencing our health. So we have to utilize all of these areas if we want to help the whole being improve their vitality, their health, their longevity. So that's not a part of conventional thinking. It's basically, okay, so how can we block this pathway? And there's such a wisdom in the body. I wrote a book many years ago, and this theme I've used over and over again. And that book was called "What the Drug Companies Won't Tell You and Your Doctor Doesn't Know." In my latest book, The Longevity Matrix, one of the key points I make is if you want to live longer, you've got to avoid prescription and over-the-counter drugs. Why? Because they shorten your lifespan. And this has been repeated, whether we're talking about proton pump inhibitors to help with gastroesophageal reflux, or we're talking about sleeping pills to help people sleep. If we're talking about blood pressure medications, the list goes on and on and on. And we have this idea that modern medicine is at the pinnacle of pharmacology, the study of drug therapy, but we're really in the dark ages when physicians in the future look back at many of the drugs that have been used over the last 100 years, they're going to say, what the heck were these doctors thinking? This doesn't make any sense at all. And it's just not rational. I believe in rational medicine, and there's a lot that's done within conventional medicine that's very rational. There's no question there. But in terms of many of these drugs that are being used to treat chronic degenerative diseases or lifestyle-related diseases or diet-related diseases, they are irrational. They don't make any sense. The classic example is the use of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen in the treatment of osteoarthritis. We know that as people age, many people lose the ability to manufacture sufficient levels of cartilage. So what doesn't make sense is to take a drug that actually inhibits the body's ability to make cartilage, because what you're doing is simply suppressing pain and inflammation, but you're actually accelerating the disease process. I think that's irrational. I don't think that makes any sense at all. The appropriate treatment is to give the body the tools it needs to build more cartilage, to help those cartilage cells revive and do their job in making connective tissue components. And fortunately, we have great tools in natural medicine that can do that. And to me, that just makes a lot more sense than the conventional approach. Conventional wisdom is not based upon truth. It's based upon convenience. And it takes a long time to overcome conventional wisdom. And the conventional wisdom right now is relying on conventional medicine to treat these conditions that are better treated by a different approach. And I believe nature has more wisdom than conventional medicine, and we need to assist that natural healing presence within all of us to promote health.
Well, it's encouraging that you see a future where that perhaps is the norm, and that we're going to look back at how things are done today and think, what were we thinking? It occurs to me that one of the differences, it seems that somewhere along the line we kind of decided to outsource our health, and there's this kind of feeling that the doctor's in charge, and I'm wondering, when did that kind of disempowerment kind of arise? Do you agree with that statement at a societal level?
It's almost like a cult or a religion or the creation of demigods, the medical profession. They're not to be questioned. They are the authority, and that's been challenged over the last few decades, and we are seeing a shift in it's not a situation where physicians are exerting authority over their patients. They're working with their patients to achieve a common goal. And that's a big change in philosophy and approach. It's slowly happening. and we see that I'm kind of at the end of the baby boomers, but I think my contrarian nature to some authority has to make sense, or I question it, I guess. But people that are older than me, they do, a lot of them do not question the authority of their doctor, and they blindly trust what that doctor says. They believe in their authority, and you know, I I I encourage people to really learn about their body and their mind and their heart and their emotions and their social interactions. And um, that's who they are. And these are really important gifts that they have to be vigilant in protecting. And it's their responsibility. And they cannot give that responsibility to someone else. They can take the information that that person provides, but ultimately the choices they make in their life in those areas comes down to their own personal responsibility.
Mm.
That's what I promote.
Beautiful. Now,
Yeah.
now I know you're a medical researcher, but are you still practicing medicine
I have
at
not
all?
practiced in 20 years.
Okay.
It's hard work,
I know.
and there's so many gifts that I received by practicing. That said, I've maintained some aspects of working with patients, friends, family, and a lot of times people reach out to me and their cases are interesting, and I get involved in their care. Um, and
Yeah.
and it's so I still have my fingers in it to some degree, but yeah, for day in day out, I'm not in a clinical situation.
I couldn't imagine you still practicing and being able to prolifically create all the content you put out there and all the books. But I was going to ask you kind of what the when you were practicing, what the Dr. Murray patient experience was like, and you kind of outlined it as you were explaining the differences
Yeah,
there.
yeah, people were
I
very
gather it didn't
surprised.
take 6 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, people were very surprised when they would come to see me because they would expect, like, if say they came in to see me for depression, they would expect me to give them some magical herb or supplement or dietary program to heal their depression. And I would, but 90% of the office visit would be looking, trying to identify factors in their life that were contributing to their low mood. And a big part of my prescription was uh, therapies that were designed to help them reassociate to the things in life to be grateful for, the things in life that gave them pleasure. And when people are depressed, they lose the affinity to experiencing things in life that make life worth living. So basically helping them plug back into life. And it was interesting because they didn't expect that. And I really focused a lot on um, helping people have a reason to be healthier. And in my book, The Longevity Matrix, the first part of the book is really focused on inspiring people to have a reason to live. Because the truth is, Mike, is that many people um, are in pain. They're not happy. Life is a struggle. They're tired. So talking to them about living longer, they're like, no, that's not what I want. I honestly, I'd really like to check out. I'm not interested in more of this. And so what I try to help people with is to realize that it's not about living longer. It's about living better, and you can live better now. And I never thought about living longer, having vitality, energy, passion in my later years. I know I will have those things. I'll have those things because I've focused on living better now. What can I do today? What choices can I make today? What activities can I engage in? What practices can I engage in? How can I make me better? How can I become the best version of myself in every capacity? That's why I went to naturopathic medical school. The first day of class, we were in a circle, and everyone gave a little history of who they were and why they were there. I still remember what I said as to why I wanted to be there. I wanted to be there because I wanted to learn how I could be the best version of myself in every capacity, body, mind, and spirit. And I felt this was the best place to do that. It's kind of like when you're on an airplane, you got to get that oxygen mask on yourself before you can help other people. And I felt that was why I was there, is to learn how I can be healthy in all these different areas, and then I would be able to help others. And so when I had a patient, I would try to find what the quickest way to make an improvement in their life. And one of the quickest ways is to help people sleep better. So I focused on that, because if you're not sleeping well, the world is a little bit darker, or a lot darker, and you don't have the energy to heal, or to basically propel yourself through the day. So that was always a little secret. And then the next thing was just really listening and letting people know first how much I was there to help them. I learned very quickly that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. If physicians can understand that, it's a real powerful medicine, and it's a great way to align yourself in the patient process. So one of my I want to quickly digress, and this typical with me. I get into a lot of different things, but one of the greatest experiences I had in private practice, I had this couple, and it's trying to interview. They came in together, and they wanted to be together. And the first person I was supposed to focus on was the husband. And it just wasn't a good dynamic, because they would get into a little argument, and so I had to kick the wife out of the patient interview. And so I'm talking to the husband, and I said, "What's going on there?" "Oh, she doesn't appreciate me." I go, "Do you think?" "Do you think she loves you?" "Oh, she loves me, but she takes me for granted, and she doesn't listen to me." And he's just going on and on and on. I go, "Okay, so then let's focus on your health." And we started working on some things, and then I finished up with him, and then I brought her back, and I said, "Hey, what was going on there with the dynamics between you and her?" "Oh, he doesn't appreciate me." I go, "Do you think he loves you?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, he loves me, but he takes me for granted. Doesn't same exact."
Yeah.
And I go, "Oh my God, they parroted each other." And that's what I saw. The dynamic I saw was just really interesting. So I brought them, after I finished up with her, I brought them both in, and I said, "I want to share my experience with you." And so I said, one of the things that we need to do here is we need to help you both feel. I can see the love between you. I can see that, but it dawned on me then that we always think about love as the most important value that people must feel in a relationship, but I would beg to differ. What I saw there from watching this couple was that the uh, the need to feel appreciated is more important. And so the exercise was to put them face to face and take turns expressing something they appreciated in the other. And it was really interesting because it was work for them. But
Wow.
what came from that was just it was one of the most beautiful experiences in my practice, and that's healing.
Mm,
That's
yeah.
healing. And um, if you can bring those sorts of experiences, it just blossoms. I have had so many. I had so many interesting experiences in clinical practice um, that um, that really brought home that it doesn't matter if you're trying to treat solely with diet or nutritional supplements. It's not going to work if it's not a biochemical or nutritional issue. Um,
Yeah.
you have to I always identify what is really going on in a person's life, and that's the biggest piece of advice, and that's the biggest difference of uh, a naturopath versus a conventional medical doctor, because we understand that it's not every person with um, every person with depression or every person with heart disease or arthritis. They're not going to get the same care, because you have to identify what the underlying factors are and address all of them.
Mm. Well, then it sounds like that little relationship counseling that you did in that session. I doubt that kind of stuff is taught in med school.
No, it's because it's uncomfortable
Yeah.
for doctors. They can't do it in 3 minutes.
Yeah. Of course.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Dr. Murray, I want to kind of look at your career as a prolific author. I mean, I hesitate to say how many books you've written. I know it's over 30, and judging by the shelves behind you, maybe. I mean, how many books have you written?
I haven't counted.
Okay.
I don't know why. People ask me that all the time, and I don't know. Uh, and they're all like children. I love them all. Um, uh, because I put a lot of effort into them.
Sure.
Um, yeah, it's over 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the first books that kind of lit a fire in my belly and really contributed to me kind of wanting to do a career pivot was the Encyclopedia of Healing Foods, which is right
Ah,
behind you.
yeah,
I still use it as a reference, just a great book to dip into anytime I'm
yeah.
looking at a food or what have you, and wanting to kind of educate someone, or maybe I'm doing some writing myself and I just need to dip into some nuggets there. But I'm curious. Do you recall kind of what it felt like when you got your first kind of book deal?
Oh my God. So, I was talking to you about how I was blessed by the ability to ask good questions when I was faced with challenges. And I was still a student at Bastyr, and I was working in a lab uh, as a serum separator. Well, yeah, obviously they created a machine that would do that, and so I was laid off from this uh, job that I needed to pay my bills as I put myself through school. And I didn't know what I was going to do. But I asked myself a question. I said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I was reading a book at the time that there was a good quote in the book. It said, "You can have everything you want in life if you just help enough people get what they want." And that's a great thing to take into consideration when you're thinking about being a naturopathic physician, because what people want in a lot of cases is a better life, better health, etc. But in this book, they talked about if you see a need, that's an opportunity. And so I said, well, and then if you have the skills and the insights and the ability to fill that need. So I thought about what I wanted to do. I knew what I was good at. I was good at taking information and putting it out in words of my own. And so I went to Joe Pizzorno, who was president of Bastyr, and I said, Joe, there really needs to be a textbook of natural medicine. And he said, yeah. He goes, I agree. And I said, I think you and I should write it together. And he laughed because I was a student. I was a third year student at the time, and he laughed. And then he saw that didn't faze me, and he thought about it for a second. He goes, that's a really good idea. And I said, yeah, I think it is too. And I go, but there's a catch. I said, I think I should get paid to work on this book, and I need $400 a month. And he laughed again, and he said, I think we can deliver that to you. And I said, and I don't have a computer, Joe. I need a computer. And he goes, oh, Mike, you can come over on the weekends and use my computer, but I can't get you a computer. And I said, okay. So this book that is now in its fifth edition, and 2 volumes, 2,600 pages, it began with me writing it by hand. I would write it by hand, and then on the weekends I would go in and I'd type it in, and Joe would edit what I had written. And that was basically my first book deal. And we then the first consumer book that I wrote was the Encyclopedia of Natural Medicine, and we reached out to Leon Chowtow, a UK physician who had an association with a publishing house, and we said, hey, we want to publish this. We want to publish this encyclopedia. Do you have someone we can work with? So we ended up working with a British firm, and then that British firm sold the U.S. rights to a company in the U.S., and it came out in the U.S. after it came out in the U.K. So the first edition of the Encyclopedia of Natural Medicine was published in the U.K. first, and after that, I had an agent for a while. I haven't had an agent for most of my later books. And just yesterday, I'm working with the original agent for the Encyclopedia of Healing Foods. And it's interesting you brought that up, because we're trying to persuade the publisher to let us update it, because it's been a lot of years, and there's just been an explosion of information on the healing power of foods. And so, hopefully, we're going to be able to update it. Joe is, 10 years older than I am, 75, still going strong. So, your books are legacies, and we would like to make sure that we can update it and have it serve the interest of people wanting to know about the healing power of foods, and so hopefully we're gonna be able to update that book.
Oh, fantastic! And I literally just got your latest book, The Longevity Matrix, last night, and so I just had time to kind of read the preface, but it already struck a chord with me with some of the themes that you kind of lay out in that preface. The fact that the health of the body depends on the health of the cells. That was like the first thing that stuck in my mind when I started studying nutrition and nutritional therapy.
Yeah.
It's all about the cell. If you can build healthy cells, you can build healthy organs, and healthy organs build a healthy organism.
Yeah.
And that the body strives to be healthy. I like to say that the body has this amazing capacity to heal itself if we can just kind of get out of the way and give it what it needs. And then you call out that each human is individually unique, you know. Three real good themes that kind of permeate through the book, and I'm looking forward to kind of diving into that.
Yeah, I don't know if you had a chance to look at my book, The Magic of Food. It's the least commercially successful book I've ever written, but it's the book I spent the most time on, even though it's not the largest. I put a lot into that book, and it's a love affair. And the title is interesting. Everyone fought me on the title. They were probably right. If I had a different title, maybe it was better. But here's how I came up with that title. I started. I believe in the healing power of nature, and we live in the technology age, and we all love our latest gadget, and we think that the greatest technology in the universe is man-made, and the reality is the greatest universe, the greatest technology in the universe is nature, and the way we interact with nature on a daily basis is through the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the food that we eat. And food is information, and it influences our cells. And so I came across this quote by Sir Arthur Clarke, and it's really telling. He said the any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, and we're discovering new ways in which food components and foods impact our health. And what I did in this book is I crystallized some of the aspects of food and nutrition that inspire me. For me, when you start learning and digging and understanding the way that nature works to promote health and healing within us through these tools, food, medicinal herbs, natural products, it's just magical. It's just absolutely harmoniously magical and beautiful. And we're learning more and more and more, and we're just beginning. Now it's not like here's something that there's so much that I could have gone off on in tangents in that book. But here's what we know. We know that flavonoids in cocoa and in raw cacao, these flavonoids exert tremendous health benefits, particularly on our vascular system. So researchers asked the question, well, what about the metabolites? Because when you ingest flavonoids, they're bound to either sulfur or glucuronic acid, and they become inactive. So there has to be some other reasons why these studies show that ingestion of dark chocolate or cocoa flavanols can improve vascular function. So what they found was they looked at the metabolites, and they found that these 9 metabolites were up to 16 times more powerful in observed effects on vascular function than what they thought were the active compounds. So we have another factor to consider, and that is, what is a person's microbiome? And this is an area that I hope I have time to really delve into this and share my thoughts, because I really think that the microbiome is a new frontier, and nutrition plays a big role of that. Right now, what happens in a lot of cases is that practitioners are using, probiotics almost as reverse germs. The germ theory is probably you know the story of Pasteur and Bernard. Pasteur and Bernard were heavyweights in the scientific community. Everyone knows Pasteur, But Bernard was the physician that was responsible for coining the term homeostasis, and he had a different philosophy than Pasteur. Pasteur believed that eventually every human health condition would be linked to some sort of microorganism, and that became known as the germ theory. And Bernard's point was that the terrain is more important than the pathogen.
Or is
So
this
they had debates.
Is it Antoine Béchamp?
Also, that was
The same guys.
but Claude Bernard
Oh,
was
I see.
there were several contemporaries of Pasteur
Okay.
that would debate him.
Okay.
But Bernard was the one that really got to, he was the first and the one that really got to Pasteur. And so on Pasteur's, so Pasteur, it would, in these debates, whether it was against Bernard or Béchamp, he would be passionate. But on his deathbed, he reportedly said, Bernard was right. The pathogen is nothing. The terrain is everything. And what we'll learn is that this terrain that creates the microbiome, it's gonna show us the same thing that the Human Genome Project showed us. What the Human Genome Project was designed to do was help us understand the DNA sequence of humans so that so drug companies and others could figure out ways to manipulate it and cure all disease. Well, they found something really interesting, and that was that our DNA, our genetics, is a lot like a computer's hardware. And it's important that your hardware is functioning properly. If someone has a genetic defect, they have faulty hardware. But what they found is that most health conditions, 95% of health conditions, are related to the expression of our genetic code. And this is related more to epigenetic factors. So these are software issues. So what are the software issues that influence the expression of our genetics? Lifestyle, diet, attitude, emotions, experiences, etc. When identical twins are born, they express about 99% of their genes identically. By the time they're 50, it's less than 3%.
Wow.
Same DNA. What's changed? What's changed is their software. Their diets may be similar, but their thoughts are different. Their emotions are different. Their hormonal levels may be different. Their activity, it's all these factors influence their genetic expression. It also reflects what's going on in their microbiome. So as we move towards health, it leads to better expressions of our genes, and it leads to a healthier microbiome, and those two are intricately combined. So we also know that our intestines are it's an anaerobic environment. There's no oxygen there, and yet most of these probiotics that we're using right now, we use them because we can grow them, but they're not all that important in the big scheme of things in our microbiome. That's going to take a while for that to be realized. That's my thoughts anyway.
It's fascinating. The fact that we've got some 23,000 genes, and the thinking that we've outsourced a lot of our genetics because we've got less genes than a rice kernel, and it's our microbiome. We've uploaded that functionality to the cloud, which is our microbiome. And I'm kind of I started my working life in the early 80s in the tech industry, just as the personal computer started to emerge, and it took me about 25 years before I I was just doing my best to undo my health and in a constant state of circumnavigation and jet lag. And my diet, my favorite meal was the Hilton Club sandwich with French fries, and my sleep was atrocious. And I kind of realized it wasn't going to end well. And I got lucky and discovered this subject of health and nutritional medicine. And so I decided to do a career pivot. But what you're telling me now is here I am back in technology, but it's just the best technology ever, and that's nature itself.
It's so much fun. It is so much fun. It's dynamic. And for me, what it all leads to is a greater appreciation for nature. And, there's certain emotions that we have to experience on a daily basis. Um, and they're all different. And they affect different areas of the brain, but two are really critical. They're all critical. We need to have a rich life, rich emotional life. Um, we need to experience gratitude, and we need to experience awe. We need to be able to look at something and go, wow. And this field allows you to feel that sense of awe repeatedly. And it also reinforces those feelings of gratitude. Cicero said that gratitude is not only the greatest virtue, it's the mother of all others. And I had an epiphany probably about 20 years ago that led me to make gratitude a big part of my practice, my message, and my life. It's really important to show appreciation. What I realized, Mike, was that when I looked at people that were older than me, that I respected and loved, they all had different personalities, but they shared something, and that was that they all lived in a state of grace. They were quick to acknowledge people. They were quick to show appreciation, to give thanks. And I think that played a huge role in their attitude and their longevity. I think there's something about these emotions that we experience that charge our cells in a certain way that lead to better function. And on the flip side, I think negative emotions do the opposite. So we can to feel these positive emotions kind of organically is really powerful, and I think that's one of the greatest gifts of being a naturopathic physician, is that you are repeatedly in situations where you're acknowledging there's a greater power than yourself, and you have these feelings of awe, wonder, appreciation, and you love all of that. And that just, that makes a great life.
Yeah. And I think it's key to longevity. I don't know if you've ever read that book, The Blue Zones.
Yes.
Dan Buettner,
Yeah. I need to work on my social life, because I'm realizing that as I'm getting older, I'm becoming, I need to get out there more. So I appreciate you giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, well, we love to have you. Maybe just pivoting the conversation a little bit to a subject that I know you love and I do, the wonderful world of kind of phytonutrients.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily consider them essential like vitamins and minerals,
Yeah.
because I guess we can survive without them. But the way I look at it is, we die pretty quickly without all the essential vitamins and minerals, but maybe we just die more slowly without phytonutrients, because
Correct.
they're protective. Is that right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I I would like to write a kind of a modern nutrition book, because in conventional nutrition, there are only 6 nutrients: vitamins, minerals, water, fat, protein, and carbohydrates. Well, there's so many things that uh, go beyond those components that are critical to our health. Uh, we have all this great research on the importance of these natural compounds in plants and in nature that can promote health and healing, that should be included as essential nutrients. But because of the lack of sophistication of uh, the technology at the time, vitamin essential nutrients were being labeled as being essential. We didn't understand how these compounds worked, and now we know that they're absolutely critical to health. It's yeah. So, and then we have the whole issue of conditionally essential nutrients, where uh, if you uh, if you have certain stressors or health conditions, then some nutrients that, when you're healthy, may not be essential or critical, but when you have an issue going on, they become absolutely critical and essential. A good example, if we go back to the discussion of the difference between allopathic medicine and naturopathic medicine and the treatment of osteoarthritis, or the breakdown of cartilage, as many people age, they lose the ability to manufacture sufficient levels of glucosamine. And glucosamine is the rate limiting factor in the manufacture of these cartilage components. So without that glucosamine being manufactured in sufficient quantities, then you get the breakdown, accelerated breakdown of the cartilage. And this was discovered at the World Health Organization back in the 50s and 60s. And then that led to them asking the question, well, if osteoarthritis is due to a lack of manufacturing glucosamine, what would happen if we would give glucosamine? And they found that it was a very effective treatment for many people. And double-blind long-term studies that have substantiated that. But there's a lot more that goes into manufacturing cartilage than just glucosamine, and so it's not the total answer for everyone. And I'm just using it as an example of expanding our concept of what is a nutrient and when is it essential or not. And if you're not manufacturing something in a sufficient level, that means it is essential, because we need it. And Absolutely. So, and I think that applies to phytochemicals, particularly flavonoids. Flavonoids, I just want to digress a little bit just to talk a little bit about the magic of flavonoids. Flavonoids is a class of compounds. They are plant pigments. They're responsible for many of the beautiful colors in plant life, found in high levels in berries and pomegranate, in green tea, in many medicinal herbs and green leafy vegetables, and also in many legumes. And what we know about these compounds is, as a class, they are referred to as nature's biological response modifiers. What does this mean? Well, they modify our response to the environment. And this is noted by their antiviral, anti-cancer, antioxidant, anti-aging, anti-inflammatory effects. That's what it means that they're modifying. They have so many benefits. The challenge is that a lot of these studies were done in test tube studies or in animals, and human metabolism is a little bit different. So when we ingest a flavonoid, what happens is that it's bound to either glucuronic acid, or, so this is a flavonoid. Mm-hmm. When we ingest it, it gets bound to either glucuronic acid or sulfur, and it circulates in our body in an inactive form. Now, why would nature do this? It would do this because these are extremely powerful pharmacological agents. And if your body was flooded with all these drug-like compounds, it couldn't regulate itself. So nature has built in a way for these compounds to float around in a prodrug or an inactive form. So what happens when there's damage to a cell, decreased mitochondrial function, or inflammation is that area around that cell or within that cell starts seeing an increase in enzymes like glucuronidase that unleash that beneficial drug-like compound, and so then it's able to do its job. And they showed this was finally demonstrated quite conclusively in a study in Spain where they induced damage to mitochondria, and they showed that they actually used quercetin in this study, but they showed that they used quercetin bound to glucuronic acid. They showed that the level of free quercetin increased outside the cell, within the nucleus of the cell, and within the mitochondria. And the outcome was that it influenced gene expression. And it's just a beautiful story because it highlights just the wisdom of nature. And we need to flood our body with all these phytochemicals because who knows, they need to be there when there's a dysfunction or disease. And really a beautiful example of the wisdom of nature. So if you look at studies with flavonoids, they're virtually non-toxic because they get broken down by gut bacteria into beneficial compounds. If they do get absorbed intact, they're quickly neutralized. But in areas of need, these compounds are released and they produce very important beneficial effects. And a lot of times we label these compounds antioxidants. That's based upon what they do largely in a test tube type environment. In the body, we cannot get the antioxidant effect of these flavonoids because the concentration can't reach the levels that they can in that test tube environment. So how do these compounds work to boost antioxidant effects? It works through a very complex system called the NRF2 system, which is our body's messaging system to get our body to respond, cells to respond to mounting an antioxidant response. And it's just a beautiful orchestra. It's a beautiful harmonious way to try to improve health. And there's so many phytochemicals that are just wondrous in the way that they work. If people are interested, they can go to my website and see some of the articles I've written recently on things like berberine, which is just truly something that I think should be at the forefront in dealing with many of the health conditions that are so epidemic in modern life.
Yeah. Like, I know berberine has some clinical uses in gut function, but also in metabolism, yes, and type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, they're So it's a great story because it's very poorly absorbed. Yet it has over 26 double-blind placebo-controlled studies showing that it lowers cholesterol levels as well as a statin drug. It lowers blood sugar levels as well as metformin, and it lowers blood pressure as well as antihypertensive. And yet many of these effects are not related to a direct effect, but it's related to an effect that it exerts on the microbiome. And it shows that there's a wisdom in nature, and sometimes the observed effect is not explained with the technology that's available. So we have to rely on the observed effect rather than, hey, well, there's if we see this effect, it's undeniable. How is it producing this effect? Well, we were not really sure. It doesn't. In the past, they would throw it away and say, "Oh yeah, no, it doesn't. It's not active. It doesn't fit any of our models." But now we have more models, and so we're rediscovering many ancient medicines that have great value. It's amazing. You go to the National Library of Medicine and you do a search, and you type in curcumin, which everyone's probably familiar with, and you see that there 20,000 studies or something like that on it. And it's just amazing to see the explosion of interest and the level of sophistication that we now have in understanding how these wondrous compounds in nature work to promote health.
I remember giving a presentation several years back at a conference on curcumin, and it was a head-to-head comparison against the top 14 drugs. And in every single case but one, I think, curcumin was as effective, if not much more so, in the literature. So it was eye-opening. It was a nutraceuticals conference. And with how science moves on and we're learning more and more, has your view on supplements and your thinking changed over the years in terms of what's important? Is it possible to get all the nutrients we need from food?
It's not possible, and that's the truth. And here's my take on it. We need to take advantage of these products that can help support our physiology. And I think there are 4 key supplements that I think everybody should be taking. A good high potency multiple vitamin and mineral formula that provides at least the recommended dietary allowance for all of those nutrients. Everybody should consider taking additional vitamin D3, getting their D3 levels checked, making sure that it's in that good range, 60 to 80 nanograms per ml. Everybody should boost their levels of omega-3 fatty acids, along with some other dietary changes to reduce those inflammatory fats. But most people need to increase their intake of omega-3 fatty acids. They can do a blood test called an omega-3 index. They need to get it close to 12%, and if they do that, then we see really good protective effects, not only against heart disease, but also loss of cognition, memory, and risk for dementia. And then lastly, I think that everybody should be taking some sort of plant-based concentrated antioxidant. And then we label things antioxidant, but they're more than that. So it's either a flavonoid-rich extract like grapeseed extract or pine bark or resveratrol, or something like curcumin or green tea extract, something that's going to provide a good source of a broad spectrum antioxidant like a flavonoid or a carotenoid or a green food, super green food. Just take advantage of some of these modern formulations of concentrated foods. And then supplementation isn't the answer. It's part of the puzzle. But it's not. You've got to do everything else. And I always tried to break things down really simply for people. I said there are 4 cornerstones. You got to work on all 4 of these things. One, you have to have a positive mental attitude. You have to be a guardian of what gets into your subconscious mind. So meditation, affirmations, looking at asking good questions, that helps. How can this situation benefit me? How can I learn from this situation? What do I need to learn so this doesn't happen again? Instead of saying, oh my God, so becoming more positive and proactive, using attitude as a tool for health. You have to have a health promoting lifestyle. I talked about the importance of sleep and it's being one of the quickest ways to improve a patient's health and outlook. If you can help people sleep better, their life gets better.
Yeah.
But people need to exercise. They need to avoid harmful health habits like smoking or uh, you know, drinking excessively. As I've gotten old, I don't drink at all, and I've looked at the research with alcohol, with red wine, and all, and I just don't see any health benefits there. So I don't drink at all, and I know that's an unpopular position with many people, but it's one that I believe. So that's what I do, and I think um, I think it serves me well. I've also had my genetic profile completely analyzed, and I know why caffeine is something I need to stay away from, and I know why alcohol is something that I need to stay away from. I don't have the machinery to deal with those compounds effectively. So for me, I stay away from them. So yeah, healthy lifestyle, healthy diet, health promoting diet. Um, what is that? I believe that we're omnivores. We need to, and I believe in dietary variety. So many people eat the same foods day in and day out, even if they're healthy foods. I don't think that's healthy. I think you have to have a lot of variety in your diet, and it's easy to do. We have a plentiful food supply. We are getting a little narrower in some regards, but you can still mix it up, especially as it relates to eating a diet rich in plant foods. I believe that's critical, but I also believe in the importance of high quality protein and concentrated forms of nutrients like an egg.
Yeah.
So that's just my dietary philosophy, and the explanation for my dietary philosophy is in my book, The Magic of Food. And lastly, we have this area of supplementary measures, and it's not just dietary supplements. For 35 years, I've had hands on my body at least in a therapeutic way, at least twice a week, some sort of massage or body work for 35 years, at least twice a week, sometimes more. But I think that's really important for a lot of reasons. I think whether it's chiropractic care or Reiki or I think these are valuable supplementary measures, all important to support our basic foundations of health: attitude, lifestyle, and diet. But we also need these other things, and sometimes those other things become very important therapies. If you have type 1 diabetes, you better have some insulin. That's a very important supplementary measure. Doesn't matter what you do with diet, lifestyle, and attitude. If you don't have that supplementary measure, you're going to be dead.
Yeah.
So yeah, supplementary measures are as critical in the foundation that I try to promote.
Oh, it's great to hear. It's great to hear you talk about that. We forget about these other health promoting rituals that if you can afford it, to fold into your life as often as you can. And I'm sure there's stuff that fits in that same category that doesn't cost money. Meditation and
yeah.
Things of that nature.
I have a practice that I'm going to create a video on it or something, because I found it really to be powerful in my life. My mind is very active, and so when you're trying to find the path in terms of meditation that works for you, for me, trying to quiet my mind, that was not productive. So what I found was better for me was flooding my mind, just the opposite. So what I decided to do is to flood my mind with the things I want in my life. And so that I divided my meditation into two parts. The first part, I'm breathing and I'm pulling down from the universe the four things I want: love, joy, peace, and happiness. And I do that 7 times. And so then I go through it. Then I need some quiet time to let that sink in. So then I go through some breathing exercises where I am saying to myself as I take a breath in, I am love, I am love, I am love. And I say that. And then when I finish saying it with my breath in my head, I try to associate those feelings in my heart. And I do that for love, joy, peace, and happiness. And sometimes I'll throw something new in there, but I found that those are the things that are easy for me to associate to, and they're different. They're different feelings, and then I do that whole process 3 times. And sometimes if I wake up in the middle of the night and maybe something is I'm thinking about something, and I say, oh, gee, then I will just lie in bed and I will do those I am exercises. And what you'll soon discover is that you have more of those things in your life. It's a we're able to attract things in our life by what we resonate. And if you're resonating more love, joy, peace, and happiness, you will attract more of that in your life. And that's a pretty good thing.
It's just so true, you know. You meet people occasionally that you just see are just so focused on what they don't have, you know, and guess what? They're going to get more of that, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Mike, that is the observation. Our focus determines our direction and our attitude. So if you want to change your life, you have to change your focus. And there are different tools, different ways to do that. But as physicians, we have to align the patient with the outcome. I learned this from a patient named Dorothy. Do you know in the UK? Do they know about the Wizard of Oz? They know
oh
that
yeah,
story.
oh yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
it's probably yeah. So I had a patient. Her name was Dorothy, and she was from Kansas, and I thought it was
Oh wow.
great fun. And Dorothy had severe arthritis. She could barely walk, and she hobbled into the office, and I started talking with her, and she says, I've tried everything, nothing's worked. And I said, no, you haven't tried everything. She goes, what do you mean? I go, no, you haven't tried everything. We're just meeting. If you've tried everything, then there's no sense in you being here, right? Because you've already tried this. And she laughed. She goes, yeah, I guess I haven't tried everything. And I said, well, first of all, what would you do if you didn't have knee pain? How is that going to change your life? Oh my God, she just started rattling off. Well, if I didn't have knee pain, I'd garden more. I'd walk my granddaughter. I'd feel a lot better because I wouldn't have pain. I'd be able to sleep better. She rattled off all these things. So, and I go, that's great. That's great. That's fantastic. And so yeah, I knew that we were by her response. I knew that because it's so sometimes it's hard for people to align with being healthier. They're so stuck in their focus, But to get her to visualize, we used to say, "I'll believe it when I see it," and now we know that when you believe it, you will see it. So to help her believe and to give her a visualization of what it would be like. I mean, yeah, I gave her some additional support and all for her knee. But if you asked me what I believed led her to having more function, more mobility, and significantly less pain in her knee, I would say it was that the power of that visualization of being able to see herself and what it would be like if she had uh, health in her knee. And yeah, it was. So the rest of the session was just all about reinforcing that, and because I knew just with the ease that it was for her to come up with all the things that she would do. I knew that she was. I knew it was. One of my favorite patients was this woman Ann that had metastatic breast cancer for the third time, and she came to see me right before. It was probably it was in October, and she wasn't expected to make it to Christmas. And I said, so I asked her, what's important to you about Christmas? Because that's what she wanted to see another Christmas. That's why she came to see me. And I said, I think we can get there, but tell me why it's important for you to have another Christmas. And my God, it was so easy for her to express that, and she really desired that. To make a long story short, I set an appointment for her after the first of the year, and to come back. And she came, and I didn't know if she'd come back. I didn't know if she'd make it, but she did. And she came back, and I said, Ann, hey, this is fantastic. What's next? And she goes, well, my granddaughter is graduating from high school in June. I would really like to be there for her. I go, great. We have something to
Got a
work
goal.
for. Let's just keep. My God, Mike, she lived 8 years. She lived 8 years with this terminal diagnosis, and medically, it was highly improbable that she would live that long. And it was, yeah, she followed the things that I recommended, but do I think it was things I gave her? I think it was part of it, but I think the biggest factor for her was just this tremendous focus on why it was important for her to be there. And
Gosh, that sense
it's a
of
great
purpose.
story.
That sense of purpose is one of the pillars to longevity, I think. And gosh, I'm inspired by our conversation because I think that can apply to any consultative session. People arrive with symptoms and issues, and just asking them that question, what can you do when this is gone? What is life
Yeah.
like when you don't have these issues? And they just start creating and focusing and believing, and it turns up in their life.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah, and again, it comes. Questions are very helpful in helping promote those visions. Yeah, so that's what I did with both of these, Dorothy and Ann. I gave them my prescription were questions. You know,
Wow.
these are the questions I want you to ask yourself. I had one patient. She was 83. She had high blood pressure, and I had to teach her how to breathe. And just it was an amazing therapy for her. But my prescription was I gave her breathing exercises, and I had her do it every waking hour at the top of the hour. And she's like, how am I going to do that? I go, you're retired. You're 83 years old. I'm giving you a job. I want you to do a good job. And my God, it was just amazing.
Wow.
It just it worked.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it's been such a pleasure talking with you today, Dr. Murray. It's been an enriching and kind of, let's say, nutrient-dense conversation. And this podcast is, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, produced by the College of Naturopathic Medicine. I'm not sure if we mentioned that you are a patron of the college. Thank you very much for that. I'm just wondering if you've got any kind of parting advice for would-be naturopathic practitioners, either existing students or people who maybe are contemplating a career pivot into this field of natural medicine.
It's been a blessing to me, so it's easy for me to share. what it means to me. And I think to make life worth living, we have to have some critical components. And one of those components is we have to have in our life a vehicle to make a difference in the lives of others. And I think the naturopathic profession is a great path to making a difference in a person's life. And it begins with the practitioner. And I know, as I said earlier, it's been a love affair for me. And it's I love the philosophy of naturopathic medicine. I love the practice of naturopathic medicine, and I love the diversity of the profession. We have so many great people, like-minded in many ways, but different, and we need that because we need to impact every segment of society, and people that resonate with me may like what I have to say, but there may be some people that don't resonate with me, and they would resonate better with a different personality or different message, different way of communicating, different way of healing. So we need to have a great diversity in our profession, and the biggest factor that separates naturopathic medicine from any other field that I know of is the process. And I remember when I started the process, after a few days, I called my mom, who I was very close to, and I said, "Mom, I don't know if I can hang with these people for 40 hours a week for 4 years. I go, they're driving me crazy." And and I was very sincere. But the funny thing is that the people that were driving me the most crazy at first turned out to be the people I was closest to. And learning how to love everyone in your class, that's such an incredible gift, because if you can learn to love the people in your class, it's very easy to learn to love the patients that come to see you. And um, it's it's just a beautiful experience, I think. I just I think back of my classmates. I think back of all the physicians that I've known. I think about my experience that I had in London at CNM. It was such a the it's it's the energy, the vibration, just the whole experience of being part of this community. I cannot, if it resonates with you, I embrace it, go with it. If it resonates with you, it's likely your path. And there's healers of all types, and there's different routes to healing, but there's only one route to becoming a naturopathic physician. And for me, it was the right path. And I think Mike, you understand that, and you see that, being a part of CNM.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, Dr. Murray, what's the best kind of resource for anyone who wants to follow you and find out more about what you're up to on an ongoing basis?
Mike, I want to share what I'm working on right now because it's super cool. But the best way to follow me is follow me at drmurray.com, my website, and also sign up for my newsletter. I put more out on my newsletter right now than I do anywhere else. And I write it when I'm moved to write, and I just wrote an article on the big craze in the U.S. for weight loss is injectable GLP-1 agonists like Wegovy, and it's just not the right approach. And then we have some natural approaches I think just make sense. So I put that out. I put it in an article, but I put it out first on in the newsletter. So go to my website, sign up for my newsletter. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm pretty active there indirectly. I have a team that takes care of that. And as far as what I'm working on right now, I am chief science advisor for iHerb. iHerb is a large internet portal. They have lots of good information there, but they're an e-tailer. And what I appreciate is they have a customer base probably close to 30 million right now. So it's a great vehicle for me to influence a large number of people throughout the world. If
Awesome.
that's our goal.
Awesome. What a great
Yeah.
initiative to be involved in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for spending so much time with us today, Dr. Murray. It's been just an absolute pleasure talking to you, and
Yeah.
I hope to talk to you again in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to. And, we touched on so many different subjects. And if you ever want to do a deep dive on any subject, let's do a follow-up. It'd be
Beautiful.
great fun.
Oh, I love the sound of that. Okay.
Okay.
Great to see you. Take care. Have a good rest of the week.
All right. Thank you.
See you, Doctor. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to subscribe to keep up to date with all our episodes, which can also be found on the CNM website.